What if I told you that one band didn't just play rock music, but rewrote its very rules, turning stadiums into cathedrals and songs into global anthems? Queen didn't simply create hits. They built a new universe for rock, one filled with spectacle, operatic drama, and fearless innovation that no one had ever dared to attempt. From soaring power ballads to funk-infused rock, they became the architects of a sound and a performance style that defied every label. This is the story of how four brilliant misfits conquered the world and changed music forever. To find additional stories and untold timelines of the biggest bands and icons, don't forget to subscribe to Timelines Unlocked, your front row seat to the drama behind the stars. Our story begins not with a bang, but with a quiet fusion of brilliant minds in 1970s London. You had Brian May, an astrophysics student, building his own legendary guitar, the Red Special, from a 100-year-old fireplace mantle. You had Roger Taylor, a dentistry student whose drumming was as powerful as it was precise. You had John Deacon, the quiet electronics whiz whose understated bass lines would become the secret weapon in their biggest hits. And then there was Farrokh Bulsara, an art and design student with a 4-octave vocal range and a vision for stardom so immense, he would rename himself Freddie Mercury. They weren't just a band. They were a volatile mix of intellect, ambition, and theatricality. And together, they set out to create music that was impossible to ignore. Their 1973 debut album introduced a unique blend of progressive rock, heavy metal, and fantasy themes, but it was with their third album, Sheer Heart Attack, in 1974, that the world truly took notice. The single Killer Queen was a masterpiece of pop perfection, a witty vaudevillian track that showcased their intricate harmonies, Brian May's layered guitar work, and Freddie's flamboyant delivery. In an era of gritty, blues-based rock, Queen was polished, sophisticated, and unapologetically eccentric. They weren't trying to fit in, they were building their own kingdom. Then, in 1975, they unleashed an album that would shatter the foundations of popular music, A Night at the Opera. At its heart was Bohemian Rhapsody, a track that was pure creative madness. It was a 6-minute multi-part suite with no chorus, moving from a gentle ballad to a full-blown opera, and finally to explosive hard rock. The record label said it was too long and too strange for radio. They were told it would fail, but the band, led by Freddie, refused to compromise. They were right. The song became a cultural phenomenon, holding the #1 spot in the UK for 9 weeks. Its groundbreaking promotional film also effectively invented the modern music video, proving that visuals could be as crucial as the sound. Queen hadn't just broken the rules, they had proven that rules didn't exist. With their status as rock royalty secured, Queen set their sights on conquering the world's largest stages. On their 1977 album, News of the World, they deliberately crafted 2 songs that would transform the concert experience forever. Brian May envisioned a sound where the audience became part of the band, and from that came the primal stomp stomp clap of We Will Rock You, and the triumphant unifying chorus of We Are the Champions. These weren't just songs, they were invitations to participate. They turned massive, anonymous crowds into a single roaring entity, a tradition that lives on in stadiums and arenas worldwide to this day. This unique connection between the band and their audience was personified by Freddie Mercury. He was more than a frontman. He was a force of nature, a conductor of pure human energy. This power reached its absolute zenith at the Live Aid concert in 1985. In a single 22-minute set, Queen delivered what is widely considered the greatest live performance in rock history. With the entire world watching, Freddie commanded Wembley Stadium, turning 72,000 people into a unified choir. Every hand clapped in unison, every voice sang along. On that day, Queen didn't just play music. They demonstrated its power to create a moment of pure collective joy. But their genius wasn't just confined to the stage. In the studio, Queen were relentless innovators. Brian May's homemade Red Special guitar, combined with his unique multi-tracking technique, allowed him to create symphonic layers of sound that became their signature. The band's vocal harmonies were so complex and meticulously overdubbed that they were often mistaken for synthesizers. They refused to be confined to a single genre. When disco was dominating the charts, other rock bands ran from it. Queen embraced it, creating Another One Bites the Dust, a minimalist funk track driven by John Deacon's iconic bass line. It became their best-selling single and proved their ability to master any sound they chose. Of course, their journey wasn't without its struggles. The immense pressure of global fame led to creative tensions and personal conflicts. The band even took a brief hiatus in the early 80s to work on solo projects. But their greatest challenge arrived in the late 1980s when Freddie Mercury was diagnosed with AIDS, a battle he chose to fight in private. Despite his declining health, this period sparked one of their most defiant and brilliant creative surges. Albums like The Miracle and Innuendo were filled with life and power. Songs like The Show Must Go On became hauntingly poignant as Freddie, knowing his time was limited, poured every last ounce of his strength into the music. On November 24, 1991, Freddie Mercury passed away, just one day after publicly announcing his illness. As the world lost one of its most electrifying performers, but the music became immortal. The following year, the surviving members of Queen organized the Freddie Mercury tribute concert at Wembley Stadium. Icons like Elton John, David Bowie, and George Michael performed Queen songs to a global television audience of over 1 billion people, celebrating his life and massively increasing awareness of the AIDS epidemic. Though John Deacon retired from the public eye, Brian May and Roger Taylor have continued to carry the torch for Queen's legacy, collaborating with vocalists like Paul Rodgers and, more recently, Adam Lambert. They have brought Queen's anthems to a new generation of fans, proving that the magic wasn't just in one voice, but in the timeless power of the songs themselves. Queen's influence is etched into the DNA of modern music. Countless artists, from Lady Gaga, who named herself after their song Radio Gaga, to Muse, Katy Perry, and The Killers, have cited Queen as a primary inspiration. The 2018 blockbuster biopic Bohemian Rhapsody smashed box office records and introduced their story to a whole new audience, sparking a worldwide resurgence of love for the band and proving their music is truly timeless. So, how did Queen change music? They demolished the boundaries between genres, proving that rock could be operatic, theatrical, funky, and sentimental all at once. They transformed live concerts from a performance into a communal experience. They pioneered the music video as an art form and left behind a catalog of anthems that have become the soundtrack to our lives, songs of triumph, heartbreak, and rebellion. Queen didn't just write songs, they wrote history. What's your all-time favorite Queen song? And what memory do you associate with it? Is it the revolutionary power of Bohemian Rhapsody, the unifying chant of "We Will Rock You," or a deeper cut that means something special to you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this timeline, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Timelines Unlocked for more incredible stories behind music's greatest legends.